It's okay, I'm alive. Should not have done that. Gonna cry a little bit now. Hey guys, welcome to Movie Monday. I'm Zaina, and every Monday I bring you a video about movies. So if there's a movie you'd like me to discuss or a topic you'd like me to discuss about movies, let me know in the comments, and please remember to like and subscribe so that you can watch my videos every single week. This week's video is a hot or not on the old guard. Hot pick of the week or not worth your time. Spoilers ahead, so if you'd like to skip them, click the timestamp below. Also, you might notice an outfit change in this video because my other camera died while I was filming. Let's do this. The Old Guard stars Charlize Theron as Andromache of Scythia. Andromache of Scythia. Scythia. Also known as Andy, the leader of an immortal group that has been protecting humanity for centuries. A year after their separation, Andy reunites with her crew in an effort to save a group of young girls in South Sudan that have been kidnapped. They do this at the behest of ex-CIA Agent Copley. However, this turns out to be a trap, and moments upon their arrival to save the girls, the group is killed. A few minutes later, they get right back up and murder everyone that just killed them. Who would have thought? You decide to kill someone and they'll decide to kill you. I'm the Godfather. Immediately after they kill everyone, Andy and her crew realize that there are cameras all around the room that they're in and that their entire resurrection has been recorded. They realize that Agent Copley is after them and they go on the run. While they're on the run, they realize that another immortal has been born and the group separates. While Andy goes to bring this new immortal into their ranks, the rest of the group attempts to track down and capture Agent Copley. This is where the story begins. Do a little dance, watch a little movie, get down tonight. Ow! Just kidding, I'm not getting down with anyone. So, now that we know what the movie's about, let's get into the good, like my face, who's so good, and the ugly. You know what, I should have just shown my face for the ugly. I don't know what I'm thinking. The first thing that I really liked about this movie is that I felt like it was different. I watch a lot of movies about immortals, about people at war, about people trying to protect themselves, about people trying to protect others, literally everything under the sun, but I've never seen quite a combination that comes together like The Old Guard. This movie puts the viewer in a unique position where they get to watch a group of people that have been fighting together for centuries, more than centuries, fall apart as their trust in humanity breaks, as their relationship starts to deteriorate amongst modern technology, amongst the greed of the modern people. And I've never seen one where immortals actively try to help society for so long without having cracked until this point. I mean, Andromache's I don't know how old, and she keeps fighting and fighting, and yeah, in part of the movie she's a little upset about what happens, and she starts to feel that her efforts to help humanity are not worth it, but ultimately she does get back up and help save everyone. The next thing that I loved about this movie is that I was here for the female protagonists. Not only is there one, there is two female protagonists. One is a woman of color. Shout out to Kiki Lane. The next thing that I loved about this movie is all the flashbacks. I'm a huge fan of flashbacks where you get to know the reasoning behind a character's thoughts and feelings and actions. And we got to see a lot of flashbacks from Booker and even more from Andromache, which was fantastic. I loved learning about Queen. I loved learning about the first immortal, even though that he was only there for 5 seconds and was pretty much immediately killed and was like the only other black person in this movie. That is definitely problematic. But honestly, I loved all the historical flashbacks and it made me want more. I just wanted more flashbacks. The next thing that I loved about this movie was the villain. He was so good. I could totally see him being a real person. I mean, a young, driven white man. And of course, the evil guy is a white man. Like, I loved it. But I thought he was a really great villain. I thought that his thinking was completely realistic. My point is, I love the villain. He was very convincing. I felt like his backstory was convincing. I felt like his greed and his drive was convincing. And that could be because that I'm biased against megalomaniacal white men. I'm against megalomaniacal white man. Loved him as a villain and would totally love to see him come back even though he's dead. And now that we've covered the good, let's cover the ugly. I'm a little turtle man. So I got to chat with my friend a little bit about this movie before we started, and she made the really good point that there wasn't really a lot of development between Andy and Niall for Niall to come back and save her at the end. I mean, Niall's over here like, I just want to be with my family, like, I don't want to be with all you strangers, I don't want to murder anyone. And then suddenly, because she finds out that this random stranger is about to be murdered, she turns her back on her entire family and her possibility to live a normal life for a little longer to save a stranger, which I guess says a lot about Niall. That's good for her, she's a good person, but I don't know if I'm about to, destroy my entire life to save a stranger. Does that make me a bad person? No. Selfish? Probably. Another thing I didn't love about this film is that I felt like Andy was like super melodramatic a lot of the time. At the beginning, she was all like, oh, I hate humanity. I don't believe in them anymore. I should just give up and not fight. But then I felt like she didn't really act on that ever. I mean, every time she was thrust into a situation where she had to save humanity, she just kept saving it. She never was like, oh, I'm just gonna let that person die. No big deal. Like, I hate them anyway. Another thing that I did not like about this film, which I mentioned earlier, was how the only other person of color who was an immortal was only shown on screen to be murdered. I felt like that was kind of unnecessary. Maybe they were trying to show that an older immortal was not white, because honestly it was a little weird that the oldest immortal was a white woman. You know, because white people didn't really exist if you go really far back. But you know, I guess I get it. Like, they gotta get someone big on board, and Charlize Theron is very famous, and honestly she's like hot as hell, so I'm there for it. The other thing that I wish we gotten more of from this film is flashbacks from Nikki and Joe. I thought that they were such interesting characters, how they talked about how they fought against each other on different wars, killed each other multiple times. I would have loved to see more about their story and see more flashbacks from them. I also felt that the beginning of this movie was unnecessary. The movie opens with Andy and the rest of her crew dead on the floor, and Andy's being melodramatic and talking about how, oh, I've been here before, and every time I wonder if it'll be the last time that I'm alive. Okay, we could have learned that later when we watched the black guy die over and over for no reason. Having two people of color in this film and one of them is just shown to be murdered feels like a lot. And finally, I thought that it was so freaking dumb of Agent Copley to trust the bad guy. Because honestly, who trusts a megalomaniac that's always like, I'm the youngest CEO in Big Pharma. I'm gonna make things with money. Like, that's literally all he does the whole time. And Agent Copley's over here like, I thought we were doing things for science. And then this guy's like, we're doing it for science and money. First of all, you don't trust Big Pharma. That's like the #1 rule of movies. Don't trust big corporations because all they want is money. Like, Agent Copley, what are you doing? So the next thing that I didn't love is not necessarily a bad thing, but not necessarily a good thing either. At the end of the film, there's a scene where Queen meets Booker, and immediately after I saw it, I googled, is there going to be an Old Guard sequel? Because, you know, I wanted to know if there was going to be a sequel, and if I get to learn about Queen, how the heck she got out of the water where she was drowning for 500 years. Also, she was clearly a psycho, and there's definitely going to be something where either she's against Andy for abandoning her, or she's against Andy for trying to protect humanity who abandoned her. Just saying, I called that. We'll see what happens. You heard it here first, folks. Anyway, I immediately Googled if there was going to be a sequel, and an article that I read, which is linked below, did make me think about the fact that this movie felt more like a TV pilot than it did a movie. The nice thing about a movie is that you go in, there's a beginning, a middle, and end, everything is covered. Unfortunately, this was not the case of this movie. Once you got to the end, there was like the teaser where they were like, oh, like something else is about to happen, and that's not the point of a movie. A teaser is not for a movie, a teaser's for a TV show. And with all the flashbacks and the amount of character background that we got from this movie, which again I loved, did make it feel even more like a TV pilot. I actually love TV way more than I love movies, so I watch a lot of it. That's probably why I liked all these elements, but it did make this film seem more like a TV pilot than a movie that was self-contained. And while this article did point out that it could be a TV pilot, I felt that it could also be like the prequel for a TV show, or even just having the first movie be the entire first season of a TV show, with Queenie showing up in season 2 as the new protagonist. And now it's time for the verdict. This movie is a hot. Excuse me. I loved the story, the history shown throughout the film, as well as the impact that this group had on humanity as a whole. The characters were fun, there was LGBTQIA+ representation, the two main protagonists were female, one of them was a female of color, which is the cherry on top of a great film. I will admit this film did have its cheesy moments, and you won't necessarily get everything you want out of this film because A, there's not enough time in the film, and B, it ends in a very specific way. And that's the end of Movie Monday for this week. Let me know what you liked about this movie or what you didn't like about this movie in the comments. If you even watched this movie after you decided to watch my review, please let me know if there's any topics or movies you'd like me to cover, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.